Despite the fact that I have AI in the title of my slides and that I do want to talk to you about how this resource functions, we've been hearing a lot about that today, I want to bring us back to people and to the feeling in this room and to that buzz that we just generated and to your warm and welcoming response. Thank you. The emotional resonance of that is everything. It's what we do as marketers. Relationships are what we're here for, and it's why we are here today. So, there's a philosopher called Emmanuel Levinas. And Emmanuel Levinas talks about this idea of the power of embodied presence. And embodied presence means that we have these mirror neurons in our face. And when we're in a conversation, when we're having a conversation with people, we begin to mirror their emotions. We begin to pick up on their meaning. And so meaning comes through in all of these ways. So there's a classic study from the 70s that has been validated again and again. This one stands the test of time about human behavior. In this, we find that 38% of meaning in interpersonal conversation comes from paralanguage. That's expression, that's tone, that's cadence, pacing, rhythm. It is the process in which we get to feel how someone speaks, how they deliver what they're speaking when they pause. So that's 38% of meaning in any interpersonal relationship. 55% comes from body language, facial expression, movement. I'm trying to watch the camera guy because he was like, don't move too much. Movement, gestures, interactions. So we get meaning from that. Only 7% of meaning comes from the words we speak. That means that informational content is key, but emotional delivery helps convey the passion or the boredom of the speaker. You guys with me? So in this concept, the power of embodied presence is what you bring as tech marketers to the relationship. So this morning we heard from Hamish and Lucy at Lumen and at Gallagher's. Are you guys still in the audience or did you slip out? Okay, yes. And one of the things that Lucy said that I immediately wrote down was, you still have to build relationships. She was talking about how her tools are very digitally related, but when you build relationships, that's when meaning happens. So that's the part I still want to emphasize, though I've got AI in my slides, okay? But that being said, I've been talking probably specifically for the past 18 months to marketers about what is happening as we bring AI into the workplace, how we feel about it. Students are freaked out, are they gonna have a job? Sounds like if you're AutoHive, maybe your jobs are changing, and we've got a different way of working. So what does that look like? Well, so if you ask Google, which I did, because I'm still, and I think it was AI generated, but I wanted to know from Google, what were the top images, and these are just like the first 5 that I picked, of AI in the workplace. Y'all ready? Maybe? She's confused. Slower. Helpful. Really, like, I think this adds strength to the construction worker. I'm not sure what this one does. This is AI in the workplace, right? This is terrifying. I don't know about you guys, but I'm a huge Terminator 2 fan. Human tissue over metal endoskeleton. Okay, we're seeing some changes here. Then there's like loved up. I'm not sure what's in this image. Yeah. And of course, this reminds me of Eva from WALL-E. I have kids, I love that, Eva. So what I see here is this concept that somehow AI is this robot that we've got to interact with, and I think that's fascinating. In reality, I think it looks more like this. Oh, sorry, this was my last one because this is just, for some reason, a bunch of dudes doing pie charts with robots. Yeah, okay, so what I think it looks like is a bit more like this. I see you, ponytail guy in the back. It's a workplace. This reminds me of Office Space. This is what it looks like to work with AI in the workplace. Or this. The only people who look like they're having any fun are having actual conversations. Again, the power of that embodied discussion partner, that embodied presence. So when I talk to marketers, I get this. We are excited. We are tense. She'll be right. Anxious. And of course, being a word cloud, the more I hear that, the bigger the cloud, the bigger the word. So this is this sense of what's happening in the marketplace, and I wanted to see if I could capture that and show you some academic frameworks just to give you some more tools for what's happening. And this is where I get to the title of my talk, AI is your operant ally. So when we think about what happens in the evolution of digital technology, We've got traditional, transitioning, transformative. So this is a framework that was just published in Industrial Marketing Management. Not mine, but I get to borrow because, what was it? Didn't you say academia is the most open source? Yes, I love that. I wrote that one down too because I'm like, that's what we do. We give you freely, share our knowledge and findings. So traditional, in digital technology, we're not going back to like the invention of the cotton gin, right? So in digital technology, traditional is email, teleconference, video conference. This is the first layer in which we're taking text as a replacement for human conversation. Though for some reason I still picture like Wolf of Wall Street and everyone's gathered around the conference table waiting for the client on the speakerphone to say the magic word. So you get this kind of teleconferencing vibe. Email started to replace this. I will note that it's about 4 years ago that I first noted my students did not know how to use email. So this is starting to happen. Email came about after I was an undergraduate. We used to go to our actual lecturers' offices, wait in line, beg for an audience. Now I just get emails or DMs even, which is even worse. Can you help me with this? And I'm like, who are you? What's the question? What's the course? So email, teleconference, video conference, that's our traditional. Our transitioning, and this is for B2B tech tools as well, CRM, platforms, interfaces. So what we're seeing here is an evolution. We're starting to transition into really being able to use those text-based solutions to help us further into something. And here's what we consider our transformative. I don't know that everyone is using VR or the metaverse. That was a big thing for a couple of years. Welcome to the metaverse. It's marketing 3.0. Social media, big data. So we start to see transformative potential. And by transformative, that means we can build something from it. But I need to overlay, does anyone, since we are in a classroom now, thank you for being here, does everyone remember Vargo and Lush service dominant logic? If not, you're about to get a hit, so just bear with me. Yeah, I didn't figure. My students are also like, no, at the end of the term as well. So bear with me. So here we're going to talk about how can we imagine digital co-creation stages, and how can we invest in these. So this is again from this framework. So the very first layer of what I've showed you all helps us identify value. That's where we're looking for gaps in the marketplace. We're using these tools from CRM to see that a client has a certain problem. Perhaps we can solve it. We're having these conversations in that way. You're really looking at almost like value co-creation alignment. So value co-creation is literally what you guys do in service dominant logic. It is where you are figuring out what a client needs by talking to them and finding solutions. And you're co-creating together. You're not just saying, here's this thing I have, try it out. I'm trying not to fall off this stage. So value co-creation is where you work in partnership so that your clients are your partners. Does that sound right to most of you? That when you're working with them, they are partners. I consider anyone in B2B to be my partner. I mean, I'm not in B2B, but that's the mindset. So identifying the value that needs to be created comes from this lens. The next stage of that is iterating value. This is where you're testing out things. What's important is that traditional digital media cannot do this for us. We start to drop off in this phase, and here we see platforms really helping us iterate value, test out ideas. Now, one of the problems, and we've got Internet of Things, social media. We can surface and we can test out ideas. One of the things with iterating value is that you can also create value co-creation or value co-destruction. That means you can see things tested out that don't work and you lose that client, you lose that partner. But of course, in human relationships, we have to take risks or we won't learn, we won't experiment, we won't try. Whether it's synthetic data, here we're thinking about taking risks to learn new things. And I love seeing that on display today so far. So the final stage is actually realizing value. So this value realization process really only emerges in transformative. So here's the full model coming together. This transformative stage lets us see that big data, taking our big data lakes, like Spark did with Telium and Capella. Anyone from Spark in the audience? Oh, sweet, I can tell stories. But they were able to take, just these big, fat, loose stacks of data, which I now think are called data lakes. I love these terms. Unstructured data, create them, simplify, put it into a framework, use that data, use AI via Capella to drive some solutions forward, do some campaign retargeting. This is where we are able to transform value that adds to our clients' databases, right? And here's where, I'm sorry, I don't like animations on slides, but that one worked for me. It was a light shining. So here's where the big idea is of this talk. This is where, in value co-creation, we have an ally, and the ally is AI. So let me tell you what I mean about that. AI is an operant resource ally. Coming back to service dominant logic, classroom time, what is our operant resources and operand resources? Operand resources, that's your data. It's your raw materials. It's, if you're on a farm, it's your actual farmland, it's your cattle. So it is things that we can use to derive value, okay? They are things we operate on. They're not static, they can be dynamic, but they are resources we can move around. Operant resources, congratulations, it's you. You are the doer, you are the activator. Your knowledge and skills are intangible. So we've got tangibles that we can move around, although I think it's a question if this big data is actually tangible. Does anyone ever print that stuff out? Maybe it's in the cloud. Is that tangible? Now I don't know. So maybe the word tangible doesn't fit necessarily in this context in the same way. It's a resource we can move around. Another way to see it is operand resources are the car, operant resources are the driver, right? We're the ones who create value. And what I want to emphasize is that AI is considered an operant resource, but it has to be used by you to get activated. In order for you to achieve value, AI is your ally. So I don't know if that helps take away any of the anxiety and tension. I'm hoping to burst a bubble of, oh, but how do I? And this is this part where I keep hearing every time I go to talks like these, humans matter. Humans are everything. It's true. We are the embodied tool. We are the embodied presence that allows things to happen. We use only these tools to help us get further ahead. So I want to give you an example. Apparently something's battery is running low, just in case the tech guys are worried about it. I think it's this battery. Maybe it'll go? Yes. So I want to use a couple of examples to kind of show you how that framework comes to light. Is that cool with you? Anyone in agritech, aside from Gallagher's? Oh, cool. Okay, so I'm in the agritech mind, and I want to think about agriculture because it's our #1 export, right? In a marketplace where we've got $98 billion in exports in New Zealand in 2025, 59.9 billion of those come from ag. That's food, that's fibers, that's materials. Okay, so we've got this really big, massive marketplace. We are on track to get 60 billion. And here's why I think it's working. Because agritech is leading the way. Do we agree? Yeah. Yes. Got my one egg hand up. So what I got in front of you is a company called Halter. Anyone heard of Halter? Okay, sweet. All right, so Halter, see, we didn't have Spark, we have Halter. I dig this. So Halter was founded in 2016 out of the Waikato, quickly has spread beyond that region. What they've got is virtual fencing, and apologies again to Gallagher's, not electric fences, but virtual. And it's a collar that the cow wears that is GPS enabled, yeah? And so that GPS enabled collar allows me, if I'm in agriculture, my two biggest problems, environmental concerns, labor shortages. Right? Huge sector for value for every Kiwi, very local, and we export it. So this is a resource we want to protect. So as we're thinking about this GPS-enabled collar allows us as a farmer, suddenly you're all farmers, congratulations. It allows us as a farmer to virtually fence, rotate our stock to different parts. It can be used for dairy, for beef, probably not for sheep. I don't think I've seen it on sheep yet. Does Halter go on sheep? Okay. No, okay. My head started to say sheep, and I'm like, no, because I was going dairy, beef, sheep. Okay, so allows us to create this resource that then can be managed via AI tools by the farmer on the ground. This is not Halter's image. I just thought she was a hot farmer. I don't know that I don't think that hat actually covers her from getting burned, but it was a good Google image search. So that's Halter. Let's move into another area. Has anyone heard of precision farming? This is CEO Chloe Walker. It is also one of the chairs is one of our former prime ministers for a minute, Sir Bill English. So it was founded, I think, oh my gosh, 2009. And what it does is it works with sprayers, fertilizers, and the actual machinery behind it, so all the vehicles that create that. And it arose because there was a problem identified, right, value identification, that we have a compliance issue, or compliance reporting is a huge pain in the ass. So in order for this to be maximized, this is a tool that integrates data from across all of the crop sprayers and integration channels that are spraying fertilizer. But they're spraying fertilizer, okay? And you've got all of this data from all of your fields, and you need to report it to the government. You need to report that you're compliant, and that's just been a huge hassle. So suddenly we have a new system that now is creating even more opportunity from that first value identification, right? So we're at the value realization stage. I think they've got 5,000 units across the country, and I think about at least 50% share of all of the fixed wing egg things that fly, airplanes. That's the word. But they also they integrate with John Deere, right? All of the other tractors and equipment. So we're seeing this as a resource that is realizing value, and that's an automatic AI system that allows them to create those reports, right? So I'm just using egg because I thought it was a cool sector. This is Robotics Plus. Anyone heard of them? Robotics Plus out of Tauranga. And this is called the Prosper. I don't know how widespread it is yet, but it's an actual orchard machine that is an autonomous vehicle that allows the collection of data, carrying of things. And what it does, again, one of those issues is labor shortages. So resource-intensive labor is taken away from an orchard, because it came out of Tauranga. It's probably all kiwi orchards and avocado. Taken away that need to create this integration instead. So I'm not sure it's taken off yet, but I kind of loved to see just the variety of agri-tech that is out there, that is, again, trying to fast forward us to 60 billion in our export economy, right? It'll be the first year ever that our ag sector reaches 60 billion in exports. But we have other examples. This might be a risky maneuver, but can you guys all pull out your phones and tell me if you have any updates when you open it and scroll it? Seriously, class? I want to know, hands up if you've got any updates, alerts, or things on your screen. Hands up, hands up. All right, does anyone have less than 5? More than 5? More than 5? More than 10? What the hell? That's called information overload. So this is across the pond in Sydney. Traffic worked with a Big 4 consultancy firm and realized that of their 150,000 employees across Australia, 2 to 3% of their time was being spent trying to figure out what the fuck to click on first. I could use this at AUT. I don't know if you guys feel this way. So they use tools to streamline, use AI to figure out how can you streamline and just have more simple communications. This is an internal comms problem, but what it did was save them. There's just a snapshot of of the platform you'd see if you were the bigwig at this Big 4, who shall not be named, this Big 4 consulting firm. They saved that 2 to 3% across 150,000 employees, saved $100 million. So that's the idea, that you realize value through AI tools, because traffic just went in there and probably pitched this to them hardcore. And is now using them as a case example, which is freely available, so I can show you as well. Let me see if I have another example. Edible Beauty Australia. This is actually a beauty firm that you can eat the products of. Hence it's in the name. I don't recommend you do that, but it's natural, organic, and it was founded by a woman who spent all of her time giving out information, specific information, medical information about the products. She was a very personal sales rep. Introduce, Decider, brought on a chatbot. This is basic, straightforward. We've been talking chatbots. But what this did for her, trained it on all of their tools and all of their information, medical databases, like we do for our students. We have student chatbots in our course management systems at AUT. Got them huge results. I think we're at 52%. Yes, 52% more orders through chat. Also, 3 less marketers on our team did the work of 3 marketers 24/7. So chatbot, value realization, just showing you this in the customer segmentation cycle. And just because it's beautiful to see actual results, wanted to show you the quote from the founder, who suddenly feels like she's won the race and has found a tool that allows her to maximize her value, which is the whole point, right? So, I talked about Spark already, so I won't go into them anymore. What I want to emphasize is that AI is this operant resource ally. It is something that thrives in the relationships that you build. And like Lucy said earlier today from Lumen, it still needs people. It needs you to be the driver. It needs that embodied presence, right? So it needs human operants to deliver value. So I want to make sure you've got that clear in your head, that your role is safe. I mean, things are going to change, and I can't guarantee that. But the idea of what a tech marketer, yeah, I know. It's because I get to be a critical voice in society. Yes, there will be changes, but we will always need B2B marketers to be driving this stuff. We heard a lot about B2B branding. That takes long-term processes, right? That takes the relationships that you have, that you are building, to be top of mind when someone is considering your solution. So here's a reminder of the framework, just in case you didn't get it deeply embedded in your brain. What we're thinking about here is that big data and the impact of AI is where we can see much more of that transformative. And I wanted to show you those examples to show you what that transformative value creation looks like. You guys are such good students. Because I put it up there, I saw phones come up for photos. Thank you. That just tells me you're taking clear notes. It used to be back in the day we wrote it down. I do love that we're in this world. So just to give you what does that look like in action, I've used some examples here. We're identifying value, iterating value, and realizing value. And there's different ways, kind of different measures and ways of understanding which stage you're at. Identifying value is just that first level, right? And when we get into iterating value, that's when it gets risky. We haven't realized the value yet, but you got to get there before you realize it. You got to be willing to try out synthetic data to see if it works for you before you realize it. Okay, so measuring conversions, productivity uplift, these are ways we know we're getting there because we've co-created this with our client because of you, the actual embodied presence in the room, making sure this happens and finding the solution. Okay. So realizing value, this is things like what are ways you can make sure you're realizing value? AI embedded in CRM, real-time account-based collaboration. I like this one. Use some prompts during client meetings to support your co-creation. Use that as your partner to help ideate, to help get to that solution. We had lots of examples of that. AutoHive may be one of them. And as always, emphasize the ethics. So the discussion that we have the synthetic data, but it's ethically sourced, that people are compensated with royalties, that matters to you, it's going to matter to your clients. Make sure you speak that and hold out that olive branch. So this wouldn't be a class if I did not have homework. You guys ready for it? Here's your homework, and here's what's stupid animation, but I do love them, because I can't actually chalk on the board, right? Your assignment, pick one client. This is a challenge to you that I issue as a personal challenge. Pick one client and co-design a solution with them. Think about how you would do it. Pitch it to your boss. If you don't do it now, who else will before you do? You've got the tools. You're here today. You are an embodied presence. You are part of this conversation. Take a risk. Okay. I want to close with thinking about the fact that we are not, in fact, dangling over the precipice. This is another what happens when we bring AI into the workplace. This reminds me of Mad Men. I'm just dangling over the precipice, but being held by a robot, of course. Funnily enough, even though I'm saying robots aren't involved, we have AUT Live on Saturday. It's our most open day. If you're coming there with your children, exciting. If you're not there yet, come eventually with your children. So what's interesting about that is that we actually have, because we are a University of Technology, humanoid robots on campus. They were actually walked down from our main wing, but covered in black sheets. Walked down into the wing they'll be in and put in a closet, and I felt bad for them. There's these weird, creepy TikTok videos of like, Anyway, that's how I know they were moving. It's supposed to be top secret, but I'm not a great marketer for secrets. So this is this vision, right? I don't think we're dangling over the precipice. I don't think we're going to lose our value. I don't think we're taking at least all of our jobs. Some jobs will be changing, but this is where we find the new opportunities, right? Jobs are supposed to change. If it doesn't change, it's not relevant. It's okay to embrace that change, but training yourself up to be able to respond to this will be key. Instead, what it actually looks like is a farmer in the field using precision tools. I don't know that I pictured tech and farm, which is why I really liked the agri-tech examples. And that's what's driving value. It's huge. We're realizing that value. And for some reason, this old guy in the field really did it for me. If we can teach an old dog new tricks, right? So when I think about what is happening in this space, when I think about I'm just very carefully not trying to hit this, when I think about what we are occurring and experiencing, I come back to one of my favorite authors and academics. Her name is Sherry Turkle. She is a humanist at MIT. So she's a social scientist embedded in an engineering institution. And so she's got this view. She wrote a book called Realizing Conversations that she wrote in 2015 when she first saw that social media was eroding the quality of our conversations and ability to connect. She saw that everything was becoming informational. Text was becoming informational and not emotive. We were missing that human layer. Remember, 97% of meaning is not the words you say. It's how you present yourself. It's the energy in this room. It's the conversations you guys are having. Right now, you're adding value when you hear a speaker and then talk about it with someone. You're adding value. You're adding your own knowledge, your own experience into this. That counts and that matters. So one thing that Sherry Turkle does is she looks at what is called these creative robots, these social robots, and how they mimic empathy. So does anyone remember Tamagotchis from the 90s? There were these little like egg-shaped things, and so sorry for those of you who are younger. There were these little egg-shaped things that were very digital, like little pixels, and it would be like a dog or a cat or a goldfish. I remember the goldfish one, and you're supposed to feed it, and it would beep at you, and you'd have to feed it. Or take it for a walk, not the fish. Take it for a walk, play with it. If you didn't do it for a couple of days, you log back in and your dog would be like, would start to die. So we have that issue in place. So suddenly there's this thing that's demanding our attention. And Tamagotchis were a big deal, and then there was Furbies. So Sherry Turkle also studied Furbies, human interactions with Furbies. Does anyone remember the Furby, or was that only a North American thing? I'm trying to discover all the things that were, okay. So in like 1997 when I turned 18, my brother thought it would be a good idea to give me a Furby. It's this little creature that's kind of like a Labubu, but a lot, and just as creepy, but a lot more interactive. So you could train your Furby to be like you. It had a little beak and weird eyes that rolled. Uh-oh. And I hated the thing. I gave it to my brother, because you'd set it up, and when you'd walk in a room, it would and do this like activated thing. It was very creepy. Again, I'm a Terminator 2 fan. It was very creepy. So there's this whole interaction with it, but as you raise it up, that Furby responds to you. It is your Furby. I think I was also upset that he got me like an ugly colored one, not a cute colored one. So that was Furby. Sherry Turkle has also looked at My Real Baby, which was a baby that like was warm and had weight and breathed. Do you guys remember these? Also creepy. I don't know if that my lens is supposed to be that way. And it was kind of like an empathy suck. It sucked your empathy from you. And she also looked at, they're called paros, and there's these seal-shaped robots, seal-shaped social robots that you give to elderly people to be companions. And she's examining all of this stuff, and she realizes that you take care of what you nurture, right? You take care of, you nurture, you come to love. So okay, how does she say it? She's got this beautiful way of phrasing it. What you nurture, you come to love. And so there's this very realization that taking care of this empathetic social robot seal that breathes, that moves, is a really important thing to give companionship to lonely elderly, for example. I don't know that it replaces real people in reality. So what I want to caution in this process is as we get more informational, what you choose to nurture, the relationships you choose to invest in, are what you come to love. So choose each other, choose the relationships with your partners, with your clients, and from that, your value will flow. Your value ideation, your value iteration, your value realization. Okay, class out. Oh wait, do I have another picture? Yes, this is probably my favorite picture of AI as your operant resource ally. Okay, thank you.